So good morning. Good morning for you.
Good morning.
Good evening.
So
Good evening.
yeah, good evening for me. Yeah. So to go straight, I have few questions. What I usually do is to ask a little bit of your background before going straight forward to what you do now. So I have a few questions. And the first thing that I've seen is, of course, that you come from Australia. But where are you from, actually?
Well,
In
we
Australia?
were both born in Adelaide,
Okay.
and relocated as a family to Sydney when we were sort of kids, preteens,
Pretty.
and then eventually followed our wild mother across the seas to New York City as teenagers. So
Yeah.
a bit of everything. But our early Australia days was in
Mhm.
the south, particularly in Adelaide.
Thorald
Okay.
finished high school
Mm-hmm.
in New York City, and I was in Sydney and finished my degree in Boston. And so we met up in New York City after I finished college and he finished high school.
Oh, okay, got it. So what I've seen is that for my research is that you went into music for you, Thorald, like playing music and guitar, like when you were teenagers, and for you, Isaac, was when you've been asked to sing. But did you had some interest in music beforehand, or did you had any interest or something else? Maybe you wanted to become something different.
Yeah, I mean, I had no intention of being a singer. I was going to be a lawyer, something safe, something perhaps my father would approve of.
Yeah.
Who's, he's the more conservative one, and then our mother is less conservative, but she was always encouraging the arts, and he was, encouraging, but always waiting for, okay, well, what else, what else, can you do? And so I did do a business degree after finding music and kind of resisting it. But music found me at 15, whereas
Mm.
Thorald was 11, right? Or 8?
Yeah, and I would say for me it's cheesy to say, but it was after watching Annie the musical, I I just started
Really?
singing the song
That's pretty
Tomorrow
sweet.
in the bathroom, which because you're always
I
looking for good
remember it.
acoustics in a bathroom, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember being able to do it, and it was sort of this weird feeling because we'd never really thought about singing as kids or anything.
Mm.
And I could just do that thing, like it's only a day, and
Vibrato,
I could
yeah.
just feel it away, and I was like fascinated by
Mm.
it. And so that was my first touch where I realized that maybe I should do that, But we were always teaming up as
Mm.
brothers on cricket or kicking the football.
Yeah.
And we got into music separately, and we both found it as
On our own terms.
on our own terms, for me, a safe space, for Isaac, this voice that that and we found ourselves as teenagers both in music, but we hadn't really been together for some years because I'd gone to New York for almost 2 years solid to finish high school, and we met up again, and our father was getting remarried, and so we hung out.
We didn't know what to get him for. What do you get your father? We asked the question, what do you get your father?
Did you
for
get him
his
something?
second marriage,
Yeah.
for his second marriage? Surely there's a gift involved.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, why don't we just write him a song? I had since been in 2 different bands without Thorald, and just kind of on my own and finding things out. And Thorald had been studying jazz, so we're like, okay, let's write him a song.
Yeah.
So we did, and anyway, that really kind of began this. Wow, can you hear that third entity that occurs, that
In the
appears
harmony.
in the harmony when we sing in harmony? There's something else that's greater than the sum. And we said, well, let's follow that. Let's get curious about that. And after my degree, I came on the Chinatown. I caught the first Chinatown bus from Boston to downtown New York City, and
we wrote a bunch
our
of songs.
stepfather in New York, Tucker Robbins, he paid for our first 5-song demo, which featured the bassist that Thorald was in high school with, Nick Sotmari, and his then girlfriend, and singing as well. And we just had a great time. And we were so naive that we thought that it was okay to hitchhike from Boston to Miami, Florida in in
Yeah.
1999. So
Wow.
it was a strange thing to be
wasn't.
doing, I guess,
But
hitchhiking.
we made it.
But we started writing songs, and you know, we just made this teenage dream, like, you know, let's take on New York City and, you know, become a big band. You know, that was our dream, you know. And
We knew no one.
we knew no one at all.
you
And
know.
so it was a 15-year dynamic experience, you know,
Yeah.
to fulfill and follow our teenage dream,
And-
called Kin eventually.
Sure,
Yeah.
and that's something I've seen, and I think you mentioned in different interviews, like your grit, your determination to
Yes. Yeah.
do what you wanted to do, but at the
Yes.
same time mixed with this, really this dream, right? And I think everyone say like you're really nice people and you really want to give. So there's this dynamic which I can relate to, which is your determination, but at the same time wanted to give maybe way more than people give you back or you receive.
Possibly.
Yeah,
We're
that's a
definitely-
great way of putting it. And that's a great way of putting it. And you know, when you give or put it out there or request of the universe, it's all in what you're expecting. You know, that's what we learned. It's like, you know, we were putting out there this big vision of, you know, a universal love overcoming fear, as if that's what needs to happen. And yet what we found is that, okay, you know, these songs, like everything's changing, you know, a big kind of universal themes, you know, is that what people need to hear right now? You know, we were thinking it was, or for us, that's what we were generating. And
yeah, they came like messages to us. We weren't
yeah.
thinking. We had this gut feeling, and these songs were coming to us. But what occurred in our journey, also, you know, we did get affected by the world. You know, we got affected by the entertainment world, because we asked ourselves, well, if it's how to get to that bigger stage, you know, maybe we need to, how do we fit in? And we asked the question, how do we fit in? And that, to us now, is the most disabling question someone could ask themselves. And so we understand that biologically, to survive, we must fit in to a certain extent. But we noticed that a lot of people are inhibited in their full radical expression because they've been considering how to fit in for too long. They've been considering, well, what should I say? Or how should I sing? Or how will I be liked? And how will I look good and sound good? So, you know, we learned the hard way to come back and trust that first creative impulse, you know, and trust our voices.
But ironically, you know, we ticked off every box that we had asked for. We had asked for, you know, to tour America and the world, and we did that. You know, we toured the country 3 different times, played every single state except Alaska and Hawaii, 3 times, and then we were like, oh, but we want to do it on a bus. We want a tour bus, right, where we can sleep in it. And so we we got the tour bus, and that's an incredible experience and very expensive, but a beautiful experience. And we're like, we want to play, we want to sign to a major label, you know, because that really is the ultimate, you know, because everyone kept asking us, are you guys signed? Do you want to be signed? And so when people start asking you these questions as artists, you're like, well, what's wrong? You know, what's wrong with me that I don't have this? And so then you seek to get that. And we did, we actually, after signing to multiple independent labels, we eventually signed, we were Jimmy Iovine's last signing on Interscope, his label, which is a hip hop label, but we signed there, and right around the time as Imagine Dragons did. And so I guess we were betted up against them, and they won, and deserved it, because they were ready and well supported. And so, you know, we got to perform to over 1 million people, toured with Coldplay, Pink, Rod Stewart, but what we were always looking for the next thing. We were very future based and weren't able to actually take in, you know, what was happening. And you know, I think the greatest gift we got was what the disappointment taught us.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with Isaac and add that actually, to me, this year, and you know, we've been now 5 or 6 years in this new phase I'm sure we'll talk about with you. But what I've discovered recently is actually both things. One, we were so focused on what we didn't have, lack, right? That
Comparison.
It's not that we didn't appreciate the biggest milestones, but we didn't really, it wasn't like, whoa, thank you, more please. It was, okay, this is great, but how do we do this like this? And it was lack energy, and
we were chasing value outside of ourselves. And I think that's the greatest gift that we get to now, work with others on is how to reclaim your value in and of yourself intrinsically, without needing the approval and the validation of any of these social constructs, whether it be an industry or just a social media page.
Or just yourself.
How can we have a consistent and reliable sense of self-worth?
But what I wanted to say was that it doesn't matter what your actions are, but if the motivation underneath is lack and fear,
and scarcity,
and then that's what's driving the have to. And so what really occurred for us after this beautiful dynamic experience was we awoke to, and it wasn't straight away, but as we started to help nurture and foster and develop other voices to the forefront, something really miraculous happened for us, as mentors and coaches too, which was, the motivation shifted to something of abundance, something of like, how amazing are we already? How amazing is this person we're getting to work with already? There's nothing lacking. There's nothing missing. And so we just fully shifted our motivation. Yes, we want to build and get to, our mission now as Brothers Koren and our company, Your Big Voice, and taking people along the songwriter's journey is to hear the world's song one voice at a time. How many human voices can we help bring to the forefront of their lives using this medium, either as the aim or as the excuse to bring them forward, so we've completely kind of shifted our way of being.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's something I've seen on one of your interviews. You say that it's kind of as if you made all the mistakes during 15 years and you teaching people those mistakes without them doing them, right? So it's saving them a lot of time and disappointment, I guess.
I think that you can't ever really save someone from making the mistakes they need to make. We can't ever really impart the lessons, but we can do our best.
We can make a clearing and say, hey, like, this is what we've discovered, let's demystify the parts that came to us.
And if you tell your story, right, then in a way that accepts it and actually learns to thank the hardest parts, be grateful for the stuff that's in the past that did rock you to your core and did really suck and was painful. Because what did it make in you? What did it call into your being? We've been working with some incredible coaching, and one coach in particular has invited us to open back up phenomenally and ontologically and in our hearts and minds and bodies and spirits, the kin as a possibility, rather than a retired former possibility. Just open it up. And what that's done for me personally, I'll speak to myself, like I constantly just, go back to the piano now, and that spirit, I'm just in a conversation with it because there was an intention, there was a musicality, there was what we call a realm of musical cosmology that belonged to the kin that actually doesn't belong to anyone else
or anywhere else
in another way. And so it's just nice to open that up, and we don't have any goals or set intentions at this point for the kin, but the beautiful thing is in opening that back up, it freed a certain colors back into my palette, as a being, not just as a musician, but just as a person. I feel just I got to feel what it feels like for some of the people we work with, where they free music back up in themselves and what's possible everywhere else.
Yeah.
Because they're not mad at anyone else for holding themselves back.
And the doors get opened, all those colors return to the palette,
I'm not frustrated in that way.
Sure. No, I think it's a really good learning for people who believe they have failed in something, and in that case maybe in singing or anything. Is what you say is like, it's instead of saying, okay, I close the door and then like never ever, it's always nice to go back and as you do. So
it's never too late is a small voice that we see often, and now, we obviously see it in ourselves too. So it's like,
You mean the it's too late voice?
right, sorry,
Yeah.
it's too late is the small voice, and it's never too late is, I guess, the mantra that goes along with it. But
we
so
get to
thanks
help
for-
people, I'd say the number one thing we notice in anyone pursuing something like their songs in the world is just the inhibitions that just live inside their body with them, and their mind. They're almost never, we've never met someone without some of those little small voices inhibiting them, so we get to help people just form a new relationship to those and move past them simply, keep them.
Talking about small voice, because I've seen like you usually talk about your voice, your small voices that talk to you, and for you, Isaac, when you were 15, right? That just
well, no, actually, my small voices started earlier, but my big voice came when I was 15. Well, I heard this voice. I've never heard it since or before, but I heard this deep voice in my head, and it just said, "You will sing." That's all it said to me. And I was planning on being a QC in Australia, we call it, which is a top barrister. They seem to have it all together, and so. Anyway, I paid no attention to it. And then 6 months later, a friend of mine, Yaniv, he said, "Hey, sing for me, Zach," while he was jamming on the guitar. And I just started wailing the blues. And he's like, "I didn't know you could sing." And I was like, "I can't sing." "What are you talking about?" He was like, "No, what are you talking about? I just loved what I heard. In fact, you're going to sing for my band and I'll teach you all the lyrics." And we got a gig in 2.5 weeks. And so obviously I was hooked when I felt that experience, and we did the gig, and I trusted, and I followed a request, and that's a big lesson that I've learned, is that I followed a request, and this is where it's taken me. What requests are being offered to you, and the small voices say, "No, you can't sing. Don't do that. Don't follow that request." And I think we learned some lessons, not following requests and initiating and opening doors that weren't open to us, and feeling frustrated, that was what we were talking about in the past. And, so the greatest things came to me when I followed those voices, whether it's internal or external, requesting you, inviting you to step into your big voice,
Yeah. And what was yours? Did you have anything similar for you, Thorald, from your side?
It was mostly that I just opened my mouth and there was just something there. It was more just like, whoa, what's that? And I think I started to go, I think what I noticed about that Annie moment, was that when I came out of the bathroom after singing Tomorrow, is our mother was in the kitchen. She was like, "Is that you?" And when I went, "Were you just singing it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, And her reaction was very like, "Don't say anything."
Yeah,
like,
trying not to.
And so I read that quickly as like, oh, it must have been something, because my mother doesn't act like that, And so I just started to nurture it, and I noticed that when I would sing, and I didn't try it, I was just letting it occur, that it would have an effect on people. Like mom would say, "Sing that song," while they were having a cup of tea with a friend.
Or
and
Auntie Kay would be a mess.
She'd be like, "Oh, Tom, oh my God, that was beautiful." And I'd be like, "Wow, like this must be a superpower."
Yeah, totally.
So and it wasn't around us. It's not like my daughter now, Isaac's son now, where it's around them. Like one of their parents is this singing. It almost, as much as our mother was in theater, it wasn't really around us. It was just, we were just kids, to me.
May I add that it was around us in very much the thing that, our mother gave up to have us.
Yeah.
So it was very much around us subconsciously as the thing that she was resisting in herself. And she was longing to claim her voice, and yet had 3 kids that took all of her time. And, for no fault of anyone's, it was just life choices. But it all got too much when she was in her early 40s and had to say, "Kids, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm going to New York, and you're gonna all have to deal with it."
Yeah, and I think
that's a full reclamation as a woman.
She did.
To leave all of the institutions in your life, including marriage and motherhood in a way. Our daughter was 11 and hadn't yet had her cycle. I mean, big decisions, and so leaving everything behind was the hardest thing she's ever done, and she admits that. We're in full we share a life with our mother, and we have a great relationship. She's an amazing grandmother, and so we're all good. And my father and her have an amazing relationship to this day, after lots of work. But it's, you know, it's amazing that we can certainly thank her for making that tough decision now, because when you look back at your life, none of this perhaps would have happened.
No,
So,
I mean, she opened a gloriously big door, you know.
Yeah.
She stretched,
yeah,
and she wasn't even quite sure of why. She was just following a gut feeling. You know, her life that needed to occur was on the other side of some wild feelings, and you know, our lives were never the same. But music, to finish the question, music was just like a safe space for me. You know, when our family dissolved, you know, it was sort of there as a conversation I could have with myself. It felt like some place I could nurture myself. And of course, this wasn't conscious. I was only 11 and 12. But looking back now, it was that safe space. So it was always that place I could go to experience myself.
Yeah. So let's go to, because you were talking a lot about it, and I think we can go there now. Is your project about big voice, and talking about what you mentioned before? Does your own experience, and maybe your mom experience, help you to notice the small voice that people have, that they have shut down, and say like, okay, for whatever reason, you know, because maybe the parents told them they couldn't sing, or as you say, because it's too late or anything. Is it something that you can really see in people? Because of that?
Absolutely. And we've, you know, over these last 5 years, more and more, we've discovered that not only are people extremely original and distinct, at the same time, we're really similar in the way in which we, each of us, gather these inhibitions throughout a whole course of our lives. And it doesn't matter what your background is. We always are in a state of, you know, gathering inhibitions or creating a big emergent voice. Either way, like it's either contracting or expanding, and it's part of our biology, our small voices. And some people have a really healthy relationship to them, where they have them and do it anyway. And some people have stopped and not really been in the living of a life that they've wanted, because they've been too afraid to actually be uncomfortable from those inhibited excuse me, I don't know what I just did, but they've maybe lived a life where they're just too afraid of being uncomfortable from those inhibitive small voices. So what we discovered is everyone has them. And what we get to do is help them see them for what they are, and help them bring them under their wing so that they can do it anyway, which is essentially very kindergarten, you know.
Yeah, we're definitely committed to the mental health element of creativity, you know, and it's not frivolous. We get really mad about, you know, that people think that singing and creating is frivolous. I'll tell you a story. Our grandmother, whom we never met, Evelyn, she was incredibly creative, and yet, you know, through her life, after having 3 kids and, you know, being from a very conservative Australian society in, you know, 45 years ago, she felt misunderstood and didn't have a creative voice, and, you know, perhaps mixed with some other mental health issues. You know, she was a pilot as well as an incredible musician and mother and leader, and but she took off her wedding ring on Mother's Day 45 years ago in Australia, and one morning, and flew off into her own plane and was never seen again, and was never properly memorialized because of shame. And so, you know, this is the ancestral work that we're doing, is that, you know, never again, you know. That's our goal.
Yeah, I can totally relate, you know, and because of your story as well, when you say like you wanted to become a lawyer, it suddenly came to me, you know, I also come from a background, my mom is a painter and my dad was a lawyer, actually. But the thing is, when he was 16, his dream, he was playing in a band, and his dream was, you know, to play in a band. And because of his dad and so on, there was like, okay, this is BS, and let's go to do something more serious. And it just became a hobby, and he learned from himself. But surprisingly, and the funny thing is, like, I mean, I relate from my work. I'm a coach and I'm an embodiment worker, but he died from throat cancer, which is usually, you know, like something you haven't said or you haven't expressed, right? So I think it's, as you said, it sounds like really frivolous, while it's so needed. And as I've seen, you know, I've on my first episode 1 of the podcast, I've had an interview with one of my teacher we do Zen training, and we do a lot of chanting, and there's something in the body that opens up, you know, like it's so important. People think it's just to become famous or something, but it's so needed. That's something we forget, that is about talking.
Fame is also
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no,
fame is, there's nothing wrong with fame necessarily. You know, it's a human need to be seen and heard. We have to be seen and heard. We have to be recognized. We have to feel like we belong. You know, isolation and exclusion in the past, in our DNA, feels like death. And so that's part of the reason why we don't want to open our mouths, is we're afraid to say the wrong thing, sound terrible,
sing the wrong
be
note,
off-putting, you know, not have friends. Like these are the evidence, or the, you know, the threats that the small voices throw at us. But, you know, it makes sense. It's in our survival machine that says, don't do that. Red light alert, you know, flash, flash, flash. But that's why we seek to kind of create these rich, you know, these safe spaces where it's like, okay, under these conditions for the next 8 weeks, you know, there isn't any feedback. We don't want to know what you think of so-and-so, right? We're actually not interested in your reflection in what they've done, unless it's positive or constructive, you know. And then just, you know, it's not, we're trying to retrain ourselves out of relying on other people's approval and likability for a sense of our own self-worth and reason why we are allowed to use our voice and explore our musicality and voice, because it shows up in our relationships. It shows up in our ability to ask for what we need at work. It shows up in our ability to, you know, speak out about our mission for our brand or our, you know, business, charity, you know, ask for money if you're running a charity, you know, just ask for more time in your relationship. Isn't that enough? You know, if you can just ask for time, you know, because that's what, if you commit to something, you know, to sing, it's going to take time. And that time that you give to yourself is going to be enjoyable. It's going to be, you're going to feel more like, you know, you deserve it by just doing it, you know?
Yeah. And I think another way to say, and to add to what Isaac's saying, is that we biologically hardwired, right, to want to fit in and be part of the tribe. It's in our biology. It's also, you know, we believe in our biology to override the parts of us that inhibit us unnecessarily. And there's no one else watching. You know, we often in the past have believed we are the thoughts, feelings, sensations, and emotions that automatically happen within us, that, oh, that's me. And, you know, to me, to us, that's not true. That's not true, that we have these automatic sets of alarms and triggers and inhibitions designed to keep us safe. However, to thrive, we must override most of them that are no longer in reality. So they may have warned us in the past because something didn't go right, and maybe you were in danger, and maybe you were unsafe, and maybe you did get ousted from that friend group. But that doesn't mean it exists now. So we believe we must defragment and coach ourselves. We must form a new relationship to those parts of us that aim to make us uncomfortable. And it requires us to go, oh, what's that? Oh, okay, I have that feeling. Is that real right now? No. Oh, I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, I'm uncomfortable. Okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And these are all very uncommon things that, you know, the Western world particularly has made it we're comfort seeking, and we try to figure things out and talk things out. And sometimes the answer is to be uncomfortable and set out into the unknown and sound out what it feels like to be you, regardless and without attachment to the result it produces, and take that risk.
And wouldn't you say the key is to name the small voice? We find that over and over again, if you're experiencing a small voice, think about or just listen to what it's saying. You really listen to it. Treat it like it's a little kid, a screaming toddler saying, I don't want to go to school, right? I think of what my son has taught me about when he screams, I don't want to go to school. We're still going to go to school, but I need to listen to him. I need him to know that I really get that he doesn't want to go to school. In fact, I really remember not wanting to go to school myself. So having that compassion for him as he moves through his feelings, feeling seen and heard in them, but then just doing it anyway, and showing him that it's okay to have all these feelings through it, and to do it anyway. So how can we treat these small voices as screaming kids and name them? So, okay, I'm not good enough, right? That's a big one that comes up. I'm not good enough. I have no business here. I'm not good enough. Or I don't deserve it.
Yeah.
So
I'm not worthy.
I'm not worthy.
Yeah. Or it's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
I'm not perfect. It's a really big, lovely,
big
juicy one. I'm unsafe.
Unsafe is a big one.
It's too dangerous.
Especially
to
for women
myself.
who have experienced abuse, and if they raise their voice, they get seen and noticed, and then emotionally, mentally abused. That's common and unfortunate.
Yeah. Or and that one could also be I'm too much. When I be all of myself, it attracts too much attention. I make others jealous. I got embarrassed. I got shunned for being too great. I think not a lot of people talk about that one, but that's a real one. I'm too much. Let me dim myself down to fit in.
Tall poppies.
Fear of greatness.
So by naming them, we kickstart into the process of actually moving through them. By running from them and like don't look, or demonizing them,
or listening to them. Any one of those.
Or letting them control your biology. All of those options lead us into the situations that we find ourselves of frustration or blockage, or just kind of segmenting, compartmentalizing. Oh, that was when I used to be creative. Oh, that was when I used to sing. We find that everyone is a kind of singer, and there's different types of singers. There's your shower singers, people that sing in the shower. There's people that sing in the car. The shower singers, we think, are the ones that don't want to be seen, but they don't mind being heard. They connect, with themselves, but they're too shy or embarrassed to let anyone hear them. And then the car singers really think they have a horrible voice, but they've got this inner like rock star. They feel that they connect to music, but they don't want anyone to hear their voice. They don't mind being seen. And then you've got your wedding singer, someone that never sings anymore, but unless their best friend asks them to sing at their wedding, right?
If someone makes a strong request, they'll be like, okay, but I need preparation, for the next 6
and then
weeks.
they're amazing, and then they just
they don't do it again until for another year, until the next request or something.
And then like me, you've got your I can't singers that have the most transformation possibility, which is from I can't to anywhere on the singing spectrum, And then you've also got where I ended up, which is I can't stop singing. And people that are just constantly humming, and they get the please stop, and they're like, no,
they don't care.
Leave the room.
They just love singing.
Surely there's another type, the karaoke singer.
Yeah, we still haven't really determined, because that can be like the karaoke singer can be different. Types.
It's basically anyone that doesn't mind singing in public after 2 drinks.
Yeah, so
just fair.
People could be a karaoke singer and a car singer, etc., etc. What would you say? What would you say you are, Stephanie?
Oh, actually, when you were talking about it, I could say the shower one. I could say the car one as well, and I think I would stay there.
Okay. Shower singers also sing in the car.
Sounds like with a drink or two, you could be a karaoke singer too.
Oh well, I would do anything if it's like a dare or a dare game.
And if your best friend asked you to sing it at their wedding, what would you sing?
What would I sing?
Yeah.
Good question. I would sing something related to them for sure, not relating to me. So that would be
Yeah.
easy. If it's more like, if you're asking me about my song, that would be another story. But if it's for someone else, I think I would do it.
Sounds like you might be a wedding singer then.
Maybe. I've never done it, but who knows? But the thing I found really interesting as well is that you do something, it's actually really connected to what I do as a coach. And I also work as a not therapist, but I also work with trauma. So everything you relate is exactly what I do, but you do with the song and with the voice, which is amazing. And it might be even go quicker for some people.
But music has that way of being
that.
It does. It's like a beautiful medium where people feel it cuts through a couple of layers of inhibition sometimes, if
Absolutely.
you just get them into it.
Biohack,
And something I've seen is that you're saying, like, during your work, what you do is you make people listen to their own voice. And I think it's really funny because when I heard about that, a lot of people say they don't like themselves physically, but there's also this thing that I hate my voice, and it's so personal, and it's so strange that a lot of people will say, I hate my voice. I don't want to hear
Thank you for saying that.
That's beautiful.
It's a pet peeve of mine to hear someone say that about themselves, and something so personal as the resonance of their own unique voice. We can't hate our voice. We have to find a way to hear it. And often what happens, and this is, I read this study, that if you're recording your voice, say like in public, what happens is when you're performing or like nervous or just kind of in a performance moment and speaking, there's a part of the brain that usually is focused on kind of keeping track and recording what's going on and remembering it. It's like so much of the CPU of your brain's computer is focused on getting everything right and organizing it and remembering what to say and doing that it's not actually focused on recording what's going on and remembering it. And so when you go back to listen to it, there's no security camera tape, and so you're like, that, hang on, I don't recognize that. Right? And so there's this weird inbuilt disconnect feeling in the brain, which is just surprise. But how do you read surprise? Do you read it as positive or negative? And so that negative surprise, the negative read of that surprise is, I hate my voice. Whereas it could just be, I sound like that, do I? Okay. And it's like, can you accept how you sound? Because as soon as you accept how you sound, then we can get to, okay, so that's how you sound. Can you find something you like about it? Can you find something even you love about it, about how you sound? Is there anything you can find?
And that takes a total reframe, right? So what we're talking about here is really quite complex, and yet we were born to be interested and curious and fascinated by ourselves. And over the years of inhibition and trying to fit in and prioritizing looking good and sounding good and coming from the motivation, lack and fear and going, I'm not sure. What occurs is we start to be motivated by criticizing ourselves and trying to work on what's wrong. Something's wrong, got to fix it. That from that motivation or from that place, it's kind of futile, because we can only ever get better and closer, but we can never get there. So what really we get to do with people is reframe the entire experience from one that used to be like about performance, like high performance and technique and looking good and sounding good and being approved of and liked. And we flip that entirely around. Our mission with any voice we get to work with is, how do we help you reframe it back to the experience? And we've been in an experience our whole lives, and no one's as good at you as you are. No one will ever experience you except you. So once you go through this new doorway of experience, there's nowhere to get to. There's only experiences to gather. And then all you have to do is allow yourself, give yourself permission to feel everything with nothing off limits, including uncomfortable feelings. And what we discover is, people start to fall back in love with their voices. People start to fall back in love with themselves, that's an uncommon act. And yet,
almost taboo,
almost taboo,
like
to be into yourself.
Self-love is actually considered, one of the, it's like alongside greed and all of these things. It's like, oh, don't honor the ego. But can we find, we've managed to find good fats and bad fats. Can we have a measurement of good ego and bad ego? Because obviously self-obsession and narcissism is not what we're talking about.
Not at all. And that's often the other motivation, not the motivation.
That is the other door. This is this is much closer to you are an experience of God experiencing herself. So,
absolutely.
Figure out how it is that you are God experiencing itself,
and that's kindergarten too, right? Isn't that so simple? If you could just go, like if you can take it away from to like what's possible, like in an experience, not in a sexy future, but in the actual moment of the experience of which you've been gifted this lifetime in this instrument. What does it feel like? It's valuable and it's worthy of experiencing. Right there, it occurs. It's through the kindergarten doorway. Music is a level playing field. You don't need to read music. You don't need to like know what the note is. You need to be willing to experience it in your body again.
Absolutely. And there's something I've seen you doing as well, is what I would call is like a constellation, or maybe like a hero's journey, when you ask people like what kind of music.
We call it a musical cosmology, and it really is just, it boils down to your eardrums are unique. It's a more unique way of identifying you than your fingerprint. And it follows that the way you hear music and sound is unique. And therefore, you are also aligning with your own resonance. You are a song. And so to understand what that song might be, or that resonance might be, or that emotional makeup of who you are might be, we find that the music that you love, truly love, that really hits you, is an indicator of who you truly are. Pre-language, pre-thought, back to the child, like Thorald was saying, the kindergarten doorway with music. This is our pre-verbal language. Music is our primordial language. We were born with the app.
Absolutely. And with each, very few people that have, there's very few people in the world that don't love music, meaning they don't have an experience of song. Maybe they don't listen all day long.
Or they're deaf.
Or maybe they don't go to shows, or maybe they don't play, or maybe they're deaf, but
perhaps they hear the music of the spheres.
Exactly. And yet in a practical sense, what we get to do with someone is study the songs that hit them their whole life. So it's musical cosmology applied. And it's a game, and a series of games, and it's an awakening to the music that has hit you, where you've lived from since when you're a kid all the way through your life. And to us, if you study that through line, you start to see the cosmology, or the constellation of someone, and what it shows us. And when we started to really dive into this, there's so many complex layers of what it shows about who that person is. It's so fun. And so we get to really get inside their listening with them.
And we, in our Your Big Voice course that starts in October, we give people, so many tools, a lot of tools and training and games to just practically get back into their musical cosmology. And it's so fun to see people wake up to how musical they are, and not just how, but in what way, like get specific,
and that's what I was thinking of, when I listened to you doing that. I was thinking, I was like, it's actually so true, because I was trying to recall the music that make you cry, or make you like have goosebumps, and it's true that there's a theme, and I'm sure with someone else it would just not resonate the same way. Like this songs, I mean, usually they have sometimes like, you know, typical song that a lot of people react to, but sometimes, for instance, I recall the first time I cried was watching the movie Flashdance.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it sounds so cheesy, but
No,
that's, I was 6, you know, so it was really like a child reaction to it, and
it's a beautiful thing.
yeah, and that's and then like I can recall other songs where, you know,
What is that song?
makes sense.
Is it I had the time of my life?
Oh no, that's Dirty Dancing.
That'd be
Dirty Dancing. Okay. What's the
didn't
Flashdance
connect
song?
with
You gotta
Dirty
sing it to
Dancing.
me.
No.
I got it wrong on purpose, so you would tell me what the
Flashdance.
song is.
Oh boy, what was now I've got the Dirty Dancing song in my head. Oh, What a Feeling.
Oh, what a feeling. Bum, 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 bum.
Take the yeah, I feel it. Just take me right there. I don't want to leave. Amazing.
So there was, for instance, this one, or there's some song that I really particular. So in then it made me sing. For instance, when I was 18, I moved to Israel. For some reason, personal like quest,
Great idea.
And there was a song that I really love, and that's actually, I think, the first time my mom asked me to sing it when I was 20, and it is really unique, and I think if I can recall the songs, it really tell my story. So I assume that's something you do as well. And
absolutely.
So your work is not something I wanted to mention. Your work is not about people who necessarily want to make it a profession.
No, it doesn't rule those people out, but it's
Right.
not actually not actually written for them.
It's actually
particularly.
Firstly, what we do, we did not create it. It knocked on our door, right?
Do this.
It came as a message to us, a download, we call it. And we just started listening. And at first we thought it was for singers that wanted to take a stab at the music industry, right? But it very quickly became about voices from all walks of life, you know, anywhere from someone bringing it in just as therapy for themselves, you know, to reclaim who they are, to someone who'd always wanted to try it, but it like pushed it off, like get a real job, or someone who used to do it when they were a teenager, but left it to the wayside, all the way to someone who is really scared. And they know that beyond that fear would be freedom. And so they could be 72.
I would say that's our greatest joy, is to work with those who are terrified of it, because to see them on the other side is so rewarding. And
to hear their voice beyond fear and into trust and into that space is just, when they re-empower and reconnect to that part of themselves.
Yeah, it's way more rewarding than seeing someone wanting to be famous and then famous. That's like, okay, well, that worked that time. That's good.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that you know, the Your Big Voice that we're offering in October is really for everyone, because it's not about writing song. It's about really diving in and taking a little taste of the 3 pillars, which one of is you're a musical, a unique musical cosmology. You have one. The second is you have a valuable and unique story worth telling and worth singing about. And also the third is that you have this distinct whole body instrument that, whether you hate it or not currently, is there for you to jump into and use and start to love again, you know, as like you did as a child, because we're not born hating ourselves.
No, we're born to experience.
That is a developed habit and ritual, and it takes a lot of energy. So, you know, if you hate your voice, you're committed to that. So is there a possibility where you're committed to liking or finding something, you know?
Yeah, falling back into fascination and possibility and curiosity. And that's exactly what Reclaiming Your Big Voice, our online program, is aiming to do with people, which is what occurs when you reframe your relationship to this voice that you've been gifted this lifetime for a finite period of time.
Yeah.
And every moment that you interface with this life, you are in some way, be it amplifying or being receptive, you are showing up as this acoustic instrument everywhere in your life. And it's fractal. The way in which you relate to your voice is the way in which the world relates to you. And as you empower and reconnect to the possibility that you are, that's not a concept, it's real. As you re-radicalize yourself to it, and now try on sharing it from a new vantage point, something generally magical and miraculous occurs for someone.
Yeah.
I was wondering, when people do your program, have you ever noticed maybe the voice changing? You know, from the beginning, they maybe they would have been like, you know, a bit constricting, or their voice coming from up and then going deeper.
Every time.
Yeah.
Not only that, I feel my voice changing every time I work with someone, you know? Definitely.
Yeah.
Like the effect isn't just in the person.
Yeah. It's contagious as well.
It's very contagious, and
we're not separated.
Experience is a contagion, and we influence each other. I would say one of the things that I notice, and I take this as such an incredible like compliment, and that I feel so that we have been a part of this for someone. But I've noticed that quite often when someone has done like really come through the songwriter's journey or this future course I'm imagining, that I've noticed that that physically they are like glowing. That the voice actually is the artery of our electromagnetic and expression energy, and so it has an effect on our key systems and our blood systems and our general well-being. And that when someone actually goes, you know what, I'm going to come home to this instrument, something also kicks in. Nature has a way of starting to flow in a new way, and that voice is absolutely paramount to health.
Equanimity.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's lovely. So anything you would like to add before we start to close up? Anything you wanted to add that I've missed maybe?
Well, I would say the only thing I want to say is thank you firstly for having us, Stephanie.
Thank you.
The other thing would be that if you are listening or watching and you've thought, oh, well, that sounds fantastic, but that's not for me, that we make a strong, invitation to you to, if it feels like within you is a voice yet tapped, a voice yet discovered or used or experienced, and that there's this bigger voice wants to come to the surface that will affect not only your longing to try on singing and song, but that would be an influence in the rest of your life, please, come and join us, reach out to us. We're easy to find. brotherskoren.com/connect, and reach out to us and look at what we're doing in the world and come and journey.
Yes, please. And I do have one last thing to share. We have not given up music in our own lives. In fact, it's still the medicine for ourselves. And it would be unfair of us not to take care of our own voices and fill our own cup, while doing this work. So I want to share a song with everyone that was co-written by Thorald's late son, Jack Mutsura McRae Koren, who was born with critical brain injury and lived a year and a half and passed away in January this year. And the only mechanism he had for communication or expression was his voice. He couldn't move. We could, but not the way we know it. But he could make sounds and he could tune to the room around him. So he that was the one faculty he could have, was sound. And he could show us that he was there, even if that was part of his brainstem or not, he was tuning to the guitar. And he helped us write this song. It's called More Than You Know. And I'll send you the link on Spotify, but I would love for everyone to just tune into the medicine of music. We could play it to you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. That would be great.
Yeah. We're going to fit in here.
Yeah, we don't. All right, here we go. Half in half.
take my life instead. Smash my armor, rip my heart out. There's demons in my head. Darkness falls. I hear your call. The sun will shine again. Walk with me. You can't see me, only feel me. Our love is deep and bold. Show no mercy, crush and nail me. Teach me all you know. You're the mirror sent to show me. From ashes wings can grow. More than you know. More than you know. Your sword slashing, our concepts crashing, spinning black to gold. Time is bending, your lessons ending. You force our eyes to see. Make me worthy to share your journey, to set each other free. More than you know. More than you know. More than you know. More than you know. Your sound has meaning. Desperate breathing. You murmur questions like, how do I say I love you?
Thank you very much. It's really beautiful song. Thank you. So before we end up and before say goodbye, I had a small gift for you. It's actually a small video of someone. It's not someone that you know. It's not Bruce Cryer. It would be too easy.
Hello, Thor and Isaac. I'm Rachel Blackman. Stephanie Dunno asked if I would get in touch with you and tell you a little bit about what I do and how it relates to what you do. They feel like they share a relationship. So I'm trained as an actor, first of all. worked as an actor, was on the set of a big Hollywood movie in Australia right at the point where I thought I might have to give up acting because I wasn't enjoying it and I couldn't really work out why. And then found that I was called to work with story in a different way, both creating my own stories as a theatre maker, but also working with people to help foster their own creative expression and also identify their own I guess soul purpose, if you like. And that feels much more lined up with what I'm on the planet to do. And probably I had to go through being an actor to be able to discover that. So there was a point where being an actor felt more like a war than a pleasure, and partly because I cared about it so much, but also because I think there was some sort of destiny thing playing itself out. I don't think I was made for it only. Wasn't made for it. Yeah. So here I am in England, another Australian creative who's found their way into supporting people to create what they want, and got a lot of resonance from listening to your story. And good luck with your work. It looks beautiful. Good to meet you. Bye.
So,
Hello, sister.
So cool.
yeah. So
Nice
actually,
meeting you.
Oh,
so that's Rachel Blackman. So she was an actress, and she's been working on Matrix the Third, I think.
okay.
Wow.
And she's been one of my teachers, and she would be present during the conference. So I thought it was nice for you to
Thank you
connect.
so much. That was very meaningful. I feel very connected to her.
Yeah, she's definitely kindred.
Please send our
Absolutely.
regards.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
please. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Last thing, what is your wish? It's something I always ask to my guests. What is your wish for the people you will help? Maybe.
Well,
I would say our collective wish is to heal the world, to hear and to help hold a space for the world song, one voice at a time, like we said. That's our mission. And how that wish is really how many voices can we nurture and foster to the forefront of their lives? How many voices can we have an effect on? And to us, in so many ways, that's also two parts. It's to see how many voices can we help come back into their body and sound out what it feels like to be them and alive, amplifying reception, themselves. And then how many people can we reacquaint with trusting that creative impulse so that their ideas are trusted in again? So it's that, how many, and we want that to be many.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you very much, Isaac and Thorald. It was really a pleasure to have you.
Pleasure. Thank you
so much, Stephanie.
And looking forward to talk to you very soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.